How's it going, boys?
Good morning.
This,
Morning.
this is
Good
Michael
to
and
see you,
Steven.
Jesse.
It's good to see you too. Michael and Steven here. They are cousins. They were both at Rythmia with me. I think I
Yes, we
want to
were.
tell the way that I met you guys because
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite memories.
Go for it.
I think I know what this is. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So we're walking to class and both of you are having a debate with each other in front of me. And then you turn around and you see me behind you, you go, let's ask him. So I think I think Michael asks me as I walk up and he says, all right, so there's a father and a son who are in a crucial or devastating car accident. The father dies, and the son is in critical condition. The surgeon walks into the operating room and sees the boy and says, I cannot work on this boy because he is my son. Who is the surgeon? And
Mm.
my reply was is it God? Is he actually in heaven because
He
he's actually dead and he doesn't know it? And Stephen goes, not the Rhythmia answer. So
Dude, you got this
I
good.
sat there for a little while longer and I'm like, God, I just don't know. And then Michael says to me, it's his mother, you misogynistic pig. That and ever since then I couldn't get enough of you two. So I'm
Uh,
really happy that you two could hop on here and do this, and I hope we can do more of it going forward. I guess we'll kind of do one at a time. We'll each hold a talking stick or something.
Yeah.
yeah,
Steven, why don't you go first? Tell
we'll
us
be
about
careful now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Why don't you go first and share your journey before you got to Rhythmia and how you got to Rhythmia.
Well, that's a geez. So by the way, Michael, and I call him Mike or Michael, but Mike told me that same riddle right before we turned to you,
Okay.
and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I got it right, but it
Yeah, you
took me a
great.
minute. Took me a minute. I was stumped for a minute there. Um, so I don't know if that makes me a non-misogynist. I like to think I'm not, but
Me too.
um, um, I do love women. Um, and that leads me to answering your question because I have loved one woman enough to marry her. And 2 years ago, she decided she would rather be without me. And so we went through a divorce and we're now divorced. And I still love her. Rhythmia and other disciplines teach us about love, and the fact that everyone deserves love, even people that have hurt you. So I guess my journey started when, uh, um, I was born a poor orphan on a farm. No, I, I, I was always good in school. I went through school, did very well, went to great schools, went to law school, became a lawyer. But there's the human experience. There's always something in the back of your mind going like, is this all there is? What isn't there something deeper, more meaningful? And so, probably starting when I was 25, maybe even before then. Um, and now I'm 55. So for a long time, I've been sort of always been open to disciplines and practices and courses and ideas that sort of get you, I didn't know at the time, but stuff that gets you connected to source. And, I was raised Catholic. I still am. There's a lot of good things about the best thing about Catholicism or any religion is the personal relationship with God and Jesus. It's not all the the fancy hats and the robes and stuff, which is cool, but it's really gets down to what is that personal relationship. How do you develop that personal relationship with God? And so, in my late 20s, I did was introduced to it by a friend to a course called the Landmark Forum. I did that. It's a 3-day weekend. That was fantastic. I got so much out of it. It really sort of brought me out of sort of some doldrums that I was going through personally and professionally. as a lawyer, it's a very grueling career. I moved from one law firm to another and slowly built my own practice. And now I have my own firm, a small firm. And so after Landmark, um, I was introduced by another friend to A Course in Miracles, which is a course on spirituality, very good course. So I went through that. And then just about probably 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, very good friend of mine from college, Matt Ornstein, who lives in Florida. We've always had a good connection. He talked about Rythmia, and I hadn't heard of it before. He said, "You should check it out." He said he got so much out of it. He's a very successful person, and he had a great experience. He had been a couple of times, and and someone you know so well, like so much, trust so much, tells you something, and you're open to it. You know, we go through life, and some people have their thing, right? They're not really open to exploring new things or new ideas. They've got their thing that works for them, or maybe the thing is nothing. Maybe they're not don't have a relationship with God. They're just like, there is no God. We all just go in the ground when we die. We're here to just go balls to the wall and make a lot of money, have fun experiences, and then
Eternal
someday the
black.
lights go out
Yeah.
and there's nothing more. And we're
Maybe.
not here to judge, right? So
Nope.
works for them. So my friend Matt really had a powerful experience at Rhythmia. Um, I actually one of the things that uh, we won't talk about the things I don't like about my ex-wife. I'll talk about the thing. One of the things I do like about my ex-wife and still do is that she's also open like me. When I met her, she did yoga. I started doing yoga with her. She's always been open to new ideas, new, books, courses, experiences. So we were going to go to Rhythmia together. And because of the restrictions on certain pharmaceutical, if you're taking certain, anxiety, stuff. So she read all that and said, "Oh, I can't go because I don't want to get off this or that or whatever it was." So I was disappointed, but and then I think I introduced it to Mike. I think he learned about it from me. I'm pretty sure. So we were talking about it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And he's going through some stuff. So we signed up and before Christmas, and we picked those dates because they worked. And luckily, it was the same week that you were there. So
Yeah.
that's how I got to Rhythmia, and it was a great experience.
I love that. And the big call out for me is I also, went to Catholic school growing up.
Yeah,
And for me it was a little bit different. I really distanced myself in my teens into my 20s because I was never willing to look at the miracles that were in front of me. Instead, I just purely thought that they were coincidences, or that's just how it happens. That's fate. And while fate is reality in some ways, um, it nothing's by accident. That's what I'm learning. My conversation with Mike last night, Mike Darling, was a little bit about that for sure. Other Michael, would
interesting.
yeah,
The
would you
darling.
care to share?
Yeah, you want me to
Tell your
tell
journey.
my
Yeah, how'd you get
regale
there?
my
How'd you get
tale?
there?
So yeah, just to link off of Steve. Steve did turn me on to Rhythmia, but I have always been kind of a seeker of sorts, similar to Steve, um, and just like in an autodidactic way, kind of learning about ayahuasca, different iterations of plant medicines, and things like that. But with this, like, I mean, I guess it all stemmed back to DMT, and then hearing stories, things like that, just being like, oof, I don't know, man, like it's nothing to trifle with. So I just never felt like I was ready. And I give Steve a lot of credit because it was kind of like the Thelma and Louise scene where we just held hands and went off the cliff together. And I mean, it gave me a lot of confidence. But so leading up, God, we're like a bunch of sad sacks. Like, so it's going through a
Yeah, we're all going
divorce
through
as
Yeah.
it in
well.
different ways. Divorce.
And so I went there really not as much for the divorce. I tried to keep it relegated to my my own issues that I feel, contributed to where I was in my life. And I think what my two main goals were to rid myself of just fear and self-doubt. And complete vulnerability. It's I don't care who you are. I mean, you mentioned Andrew Tate the other day, so hopefully he doesn't listen to this and call me a bitch or whatever. But we all have our level of, when you're alone on your couch, laying in bed, whatever, your brain does what it does. And it goes into that, default thinking and, the I'm not good enough. What if people find out who I really am? Like, so there's that mask that and I've always wanted to drop that. And I always used my humor and my, sarcasm to kind of make self-deprecating jokes in order to be like, hey, like I'm a mess, aren't you too? And to get people to come along with you is difficult. So when I decided to go to Rythmia, it was kind of crazy. And our friend Matt, who is become kind of my spiritual guru of sorts,
Mhm.
he's very well versed in all of this, and he's been on several spiritual journeys. And he said, start keep your eyes open. You know what I mean? Like Wu Tang says, pay attention, put your shoes on. Things start to happen, and they did. Nothing was a coincidence, and I started, like you said, Jesse, I started to look at things as not coincidental, but fateful or destined. You know, and leading up to Rythmia, I had a lot of really interesting challenges that were put in front of me. And you're like, not, come on, I got the, I got this nice thing. Don't fuck it up with this drama. You know what I mean? And right up to leaving for Rhythmia, I had crazy stuff going on. Some good stuff, some challenging, kind of emotionally and whatever. And so yeah, that Steve it was great to have him there. We leaned on each other as much as, and with the guidance of Matt, he told us, like, don't stay together in the ceremonies, which was, good. We were rooming together. We were together a lot, and we have very strong type A personalities. And no, there was nobody there, the dog owner, to spray the hose on us. So we scrapped it up a little, just in, we were exhausted through the
Yeah.
process. And you get a little snarky, and we're both very sarcastic. And I know he probably wants to say something. You can defend yourself later.
No,
You're
no.
gonna wait. But
Talking
no,
stick.
so it was a cool lead up. And then the last thing I'll say, just to wrap this like intro up, is that we got there, and Jesse, you remember, we saw these other weirdos that looked like, I mean, I said it to one of the guys. I go, like what you would say to a pregnant woman, like, you're glowing. You know what I mean? I was like, I know that sounds weird, but it's the only way I could describe, like, their eye, like everything about them just seemed vibrant, and the energy they were putting off. And it's like, God, I want to be around these people. Steve and I met a guy from, I think he was from Pennsylvania. I think he was like a police officer, and he was just, I mean, just he wouldn't shut up. And like, I mean, I already don't shut up. So, but and then we came together, and we were all kind of like, I mean, I didn't even notice, you know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest, like, I didn't notice you, Jesse. Like,
Mhm.
like, it was just, I was so in my head, and
Yeah.
we were very like separate. And even through all the stuff I learned, is like, we're not, and didn't yet understand that the experience that these people had been through just dissolved that, and created this amalgamation of just beautiful souls. And the more I went to these classes and did the breathing, and I'm like, I want that. And then, dun dun dun. I'm not gonna, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
want to ruin it. So I want to keep it sequential, but that was my experience.
Mm.
The the energy that you're talking about was something I never noticed until after my week there. They
Oh,
mentioned an aura around people,
Mm-hmm.
and after what I would call a spiritual awakening for myself, it's something that I notice every single day now. And when looking at everybody that was there, it was glowing by the end of the week. There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, we get there. I think that we met each other. Maybe it was day two. I want to say that we ran into each other. Maybe day two or yeah, it was definitely day two because Tuesday night was the beginning of the end for us. So, so,
In a good way.
in the best way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So we get there. We go through some of the introductory classes. What are some of the thoughts before beginning? I know that you guys maybe had that guidance from your friend Matt,
Mm-hmm.
but what were some expectations going into it? And then once you were into it, what was the first night like? I'll let Steven start, and maybe you'll bring up those howling monkeys also because I heard you across the room saying, "What is that?"
was that the first night? I
It
remember
was the first.
that. Yes, I think I developed a reputation quickly in the group. But let me go back 1 second to what Mike just talked about because I like how there's a group of people there for a week, and then as they're leaving, the new group is coming in, and so there's a lot of overlap. When you first arrive, you meet all these people who have this whole week of the experience that they're finishing up, and they're just like on fire terms of like their energy, their spirit, they're talking about their experience, they're totally open. And so you walk in there and it's like, whoa, these people are on some other level. And it's pretty cool because I saw that and I'm like, well, like Mike said, I want some of that. And am I going to be like that in a week? And like, you know, show me how this works. This is cool. Um, you can't help but be drawn to the magnetism of those people. I mean, this one guy I was talking to when I first got there, he's like, this is my family, and he's like, I fell in love this week. He's got this girl. He's like, he just met. I'm like, whoa, what the heck? Um, so that's what you kind of roll in there with these sort of expectations or possibilities, right, for what's going to happen to you. And so, you know, getting settled in. I mean, for anyone listening who hasn't seen the website or anything, I mean, it's like a beautiful resort. First day I went in there at the spa, got a you know mud mud bath and a steam and a you know jacuzzi or whatever, and got all the stuff there. So it's really cool. And then the food, you start eating the food, it's just all just fresh and all that. So I was just like ready to be wowed. That's how I went into it. Um, but sort of the one thing that the first day, um, anticipating the drinking of the medicine, right? Because I didn't have any experience with that. What does this stuff taste like? Everyone's talking about how many cups and this and that. I didn't know anything. I didn't do a lot of research beforehand. I think a lot of people do their research. I have this weird thing. I'm sort of like, I don't want to taint my experience with a bunch of research. So I kind of want to go in blind and just sort of be impressed. That's kind of how I approach things sometimes. And so that's how I approach this. I mean, I knew enough from my friend Matt. I knew Mike and I signed up, but in the 3 months or whatever it was between when we signed up and when we actually went, I didn't do a lot of research. I didn't even, investigate it much. So I just showed up sort of like ready to be uh have some new experiences. And that was cool. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but that worked. I guess it worked for me. But in the back of my mind, I'll tell you, uh, I've always had something that's like, what's gonna is there something that's gonna hold me back from the full experience? And I guess I was open and I went into it. And the first night, I think I drank. I mean, the cups are like little shot glasses, so I didn't know if it was like I didn't know if it was like a tumbler of this stuff. Was that a cup? I didn't know. Two cups. It's like you're like chugging Gatorade or what? But no, it's just like a little shot glass. And I drank it, and you know, doesn't taste good. Um, but I was ready for the experience. And I guess the first night, I just felt the purging, a lot of that. And I kind of had some experiences of like little conversations in my head. Um, and then hearing lots of sounds and smelling lots of smells, right? And these monkeys out, I didn't know, we're in Costa Rica, so there's like da, 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 da. I didn't know what that was. So on this medicine, I felt like I had diarrhea of the mouth too, as well as,
Yeah.
regular diarrhea. So I guess that's the way I deal with stuff is just to start yapping. And, the people there are like, sir, let people have their own experience. And I'm like, fuck that. What the fuck is this? You know, um, and so I quickly developed a reputation, I think, as the fucking loudmouth. Like, what the fuck is this guy doing? He's not running the show. Why is he talking? So that was my first night.
I realize that everybody has their own journey and that's what they tell us. And I respect that. But I have to say, you were one of the most enjoyable parts of my journey because you kept it very entertaining for me. It was really hard for me to keep to myself because I felt like a social butterfly, and I just wanted to talk. And maybe that's because if we go a little bit deeper even in I would say my marriage, I always had a really tough time communicating, especially those hard conversations you lock up
Yeah.
and you don't know what to say because you always feel like you're going to say the incorrect thing. And
Yeah.
hearing somebody else that was speaking, I felt like you probably didn't hear what I was saying, but I felt like I was having a conversation with you when you were talking, and I was just going back and forth with that. So that did help me through, and I appreciated that. I'll tell a little story about those monkeys because that morning before the first ceremony, they were right outside my window, and I was thinking that there was a dog fight going on, like they were having some sort of dog fight behind the fence. I was like, what is going on here? Because these howler monkeys, if anybody listening to this hasn't heard them, they're like this deep, deep growl. And when they were going on during the ceremony, I was thinking to myself, like, is this going to be every single night? But it seemed like the sound of the monkeys got further and further away until you couldn't hear them anymore by the third or fourth night. And I don't know if that was just because we either got used to it or if they show up for the first couple nights and go away, and that's kind of the way that Mother Ayahuasca wants it. Okay, Michael, I'm interested to hear about your first night.
Ooh, okay. First night, yeah, same, apprehension, going into it, just knowing that, it doesn't taste awesome. I've told people when they ask, it's like drinking the bottom of a French press, but that would probably taste a lot better. Like the at a almost an espresso grind, maybe
Yeah.
consistency wise.
Consistency wise, a little thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I was in my head about a lot of different things, but what actually happened, I think that first night I think I drank like 3 cups or something. But so what happened to me is I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll outdrink my ego. Which when I sat with it and the shaman helpers kind of guided me, they were like, no, why don't you wait, because I was having trouble surrendering to the process. And I thought, well, just keep drinking, right? And eventually it's just going to beat me into submission. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that that wasn't the um, way I went, because I did actually lay back down, begin asking, the question, like, show me who I've become. Uh, and I started to make some headway with that. I learned, what I kind of knew already about myself, but if I, prior to doing this, admitted like, oh yeah, I'm a manipulator or I'm a this, it would just be like a self-proclamation. This was I was being told by, you know, Mother Ayahuasca, which just seemed like me, my intuition, intuitively, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a liar. I'm a manipulator. I'm a hypocrite. I'm judgmental, and those things that, I, and not to jump back, but I'm also, I'm not saying this to be like, I'm a yoga teacher, but I did yoga teacher training. I've done a lot of things that built up to my ability to surrender, to take the mask off, to be um, open to self inquiry work. But you know, I it's only as deep as you can go. So that's why I, reference that, is that the ayahuasca tears through your physical body and just separates all that organic matter out, and it it's like just polishes your soul, and if you allow it, which was my issue that night, is I didn't want to give up me,
Hmm.
and I saw something, stupid Instagram, but I do like Instagram because you do see some cool shit on there if your algorithm isn't just all, you know, chicks and whatever. Not, but
Yeah, I like
AI
calligraphy. Yeah,
supermodels.
yeah. So
yeah,
it said man will give up man will give up everything, or yeah, man will give up everything but never surrender himself. And that is interesting because it's true. It's like we're so married to our, God, that's a bad word for us, but we're so
yeah. We had to
we're
divorce
so
your
Yeah.
ego.
ingrained. You can edit that.
No, no editing.
No, I'm kidding. We're so just trained and conditioned to just live in the struggle that we create, and then we're blaming exterior things, and like, we could all blame our ex-wives, and but like my yoga teacher says, if you're annoyed, then you're annoying. So that's what I think started happening that first night, is I realized like, oh, it's not the world, it's not my ex-wife, it's not the asshole, in traffic, or it's me. So because I have a choice how I want to respond to things. So it was tough for me that first night. And what happened is, at the end, everyone wanted to share, and I just felt not great. Like I felt really, I think it was like I had an ego hangover, and I was kind of pissy, like kind of like, oh, this fucking sucked, like,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
but I knew I just didn't want to, um, I didn't want to admit to myself that that was, what had happened. Because it was a lot. It was like a dump truck coming and just dumping friggin' dirt on top of you, and you're pinned to the ground by the truth. And Teresa shared, and it was, I would say, 98.7% my experience. She was trying to outdrink her ego. And I mean, literally, I was just like, so I didn't need to share because she did. So at the end, I went up to her and, said, "Hey, thanks for that. That was insightful and it really helped me a lot." And I said, you know, I, I, if I would have shared, I don't think I would have been as eloquent as you were. And she said, "Thank you." And we, gave her a hug. And um, as soon as it's crazy, this is nuts. As soon as we stopped hugging, um, I immediately like dropped to my knees onto my mattress and felt like I was going to purge. And I'm looking around and Steve was there. Yo, what are you doing? Like, it's done, man. Like, like,
Yeah, no more puking. We're
but
done. The lights are on.
I felt like shit. And I'm like, I was like kind of like, serious in I'm like, dude, like shut the fuck up, like get away from, like, and of course he didn't, which that's why I love him.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I got
Yeah.
really sweaty. I was like, what the fuck is going on? That exchange of energy between Teresa and I did something. Um, and Mama wasn't done with me. So, oh man. I hope this is where I hope not a lot of people watch your podcast.
Was this on the
So
first night? Okay.
first night. So so I had my head in the bucket. They tell you, get, face down, ass up. So I was like that. And I just went, ooh, I'm feeling a rumble, which was now above my head from that area. And I said, all right, I'm going to make my way to the bathroom. But I took my bucket as, I actually followed instructions. So if anything, they cured my ADHD. I didn't have to read the instructions. That's maybe I just listened to them. So I
That's
make my
important.
way to, toward the bathroom. I make it to the middle of that entry room in the Maloka, and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna throw up. So I dropped to my knees again, facing the bucket, whatever, and then there was a counterbalance of things going on in my body. So as soon as I dropped down, I'm like, oh God, I don't want which I called, I don't want the Pucano to happen. So I got up probably too quickly, made my way into the bathroom, and um, yeah, I made it. I can end the story there, right? No, I woke up to a shaman helper. They call you brother because I think that's so cool because,
I love it.
we're all in this together.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
right.
seems weird at first. It did seem weird at that point. But, brother knocking on the door because you leave the door unlocked during the ceremonies just in case anything happens so they can get in. And I was glad the door was unlocked because they asked if I was okay, and I didn't realize this. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. So I was basically arm on the back of the toilet between the sink and the toilet, right as rain, right?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Sitting in a lake of, yeah,
Oh, wow.
Rhea.
Really?
Yeah. So I made it to the bathroom. But yeah, I I exited. Not the bathroom. Well, that was a whole nother story.
Eventually.
They were great. They gave me a blanket to wrap around myself and everything. But yeah, I mean, as a grown man, I shit myself
Yeah.
the first night of doing ayahuasca, and I was embarrassed. Really not embarrassed because I shit myself, but I felt horrible that they wouldn't let me clean it up. I actually cleaned myself up, went back to the Maloka, and they would not let me do it. And I felt shame. I felt that, and it reminded me of something that had happened in my childhood. But after examining it further, that's similar to what they call a nada. So when you lose consciousness on ayahuasca, sorry if I'm over like or mansplaining.
You're
But
good.
when you
You're
lose
good.
consciousness on ayahuasca, it's usually the result of a deep seated issue or trauma or just something. And I felt amazing after.
Yeah.
Maybe I just needed to clean my colon out, but I felt underlying all of that kind of like shame and like having other people clean up a grown man's diarrhea is just an awful feeling. But I learned that I don't let people help me, and that was a nice lesson to take away. And so I was excited for the next night, man.
Yeah.
I was ready to go, and I owned it, and I do own it. I think it's a cool experience.
Isn't it funny how
Well, I don't think anyone else in the group gave you any,
no,
Any shit
crap,
for it?
I didn't know
any shit
about it.
for it.
So
I
I would
mean,
have given you as much as I gave Steven for not
yeah,
washing his hands one night.
I, I think eventually you probably told everyone, Mike. I mean, about what happened. I don't think anyone knew at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how everything kind of goes full circle? You mentioned something that happened when you were younger, and here you are 45 plus years later or 40 years later, and you're in the same exact position. And this time you're dealing with it. And it's almost like you were visibly encountering that split that we talk about,
Mm.
where something happens earlier in your life that creates that split of your soul of
Mhm.
that road you go down. That's a really amazing thing. I didn't know that personally. I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
maybe better that I didn't.
Yeah,
Okay, that's great though. I thank you for sharing that because that's super powerful. And again, that's the ayahuasca giving you what you need, not what you want. I'm sure you didn't want to be in that situation. All right, Steven. So we uh we wrap around into night two, and night two for me was my favorite night ever. I still remember um you groaning coming out of the bathroom, and Michael going, "Oh my God, Steven." And that was kind of like the peak for me. But what
It-
one little thing I'll share about that night before you start that was funny is there was an event happening outside, and I was asked, "Go inside, go inside." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go inside." And then I go inside with you, or not with you, but I'm in there, and we're giggling back and forth across the Maloka, and you say Freebird do a song because it was the most magical song ever. And a little background on that for me is, I grew up with my parents, going to certain music events in just local bars, and there's always that drunk guy at the bar. It's like Freebird, and that's kind of what it was for me. And
yes.
I'm laughing so damn hard. The guy goes, "We need you to go outside." And I said, "You just sent me in here 10 minutes ago." So then I go back outside. And they're like, "Okay, go back inside." I'm like, "Okay." And then I just continued to laugh. And then I got a little bit of a talking to, and I apologize to anybody that I did affect with my laughter because I didn't want to be rude. It was just, I explained it. I think it was on the first episode that night to me felt like a party that I was never invited to when I was in high school. And I never went to college, so I never got the college party experience. So you gave me that night, and I want to thank you for that. Uh,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Go on.
That's awesome. So yeah, no, that I think that was the night, one of the nights, I think that might have been the night that I drank 5 cups.
Same
And
here.
like Mike
Yeah,
said, yeah, I was trying to outdrink my ego, and my ego or whatever was I was holding on to. And that's sort of I don't know. I think it's a similar issue for many people, but takes different specific forms, I guess. But you know, uh, ego, control, um, you want to sort of take yourself, take your personality along for the ride, but that's not surrendering. And so that's where my struggle was the whole time. And and still, because this journey, the layers of the onion, you know, the way I see all this stuff, and this is just one way to look at it, is you grow up and you've got, I mean, you're born, right? You're born whole and complete, and you gather this stuff along the way, and unresolved emotions or unresolved issues, or you create your personality, and then when you get into this kind of work, you're starting to peel layers of the onion, and maybe some experiences like Rhythmia, you peel off several layers, but there's still more. There's still deeper levels to go. So although I love the experience and everything about it, I felt like I still couldn't access that surrender. And so, um, in my head, in my ego, trying to outdrink it and getting annoyed with sort of the process a little bit. The fact that, my body hurt, the fact that, all this purging. For me, it was mostly, the lower purging. I didn't have a lot of the vomiting,
Yeah.
once or twice. But just that was always going on. I felt like I couldn't just relax and, let the medicine do its thing, because, a lot of my focus was on, the music was a little too loud and monotonous. The smells and the smokes that they're firing around, the guy with the smoke machine who's going around waving it in your face, and the of course the taste, and yeah, so that was out of frustration, trying to create some lighter moments of sarcastic humor, is was my go-to. And Free Bird is that song that like goes on forever, never ends. And it just keeps going, keeps
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. The music was that was the vibe I was getting from the music. So I appreciate that you appreciated it. And I think some of so they separate the males and the females, and some of the females are getting quite annoyed with my commentary. But yeah, so I just felt like, and then you start comparing yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
all these people going through these great experiences, sharing stuff about these, alien creatures are seeing,
Octopus. Yeah.
magical shapes and
Uh,
things that they're like into this freaking, you know, magical mystery tour. And I'm sitting there like just, shitting my brains out. It's like, where did I, where did I sign up for the wrong weekend? I mean, what, where do I get some more of that? Um, and so I think it's just surrender. And so that was always in the back of my mind, because as an attorney, I am educated in engineering and law, and it's like you're always like in control of all the minute details. And you know, it's not easy. This journey is not easy. Surrendering yourself to, trusting in God, like totally, or source, or whatever you want to call it, Mama Ayahuasca, um, saying that, you're going to be taken care of. You're going to be okay. Well, am I? Maybe I should keep a little bit of myself going on here just in case, because I don't know.
Mhm.
Am I going to be okay? So, uh, a quick story from when I was like 8 or 9.
yeah.
I was always a little afraid of heights, or just, I don't know, not like just one of those kids, like, I won't do it until I'm ready. But when I'm ready, okay, like roller coasters or whatever. So I get on this sliding board. It's just a simple sliding board at a pool. And I think my brother was behind me, and I was getting ready to go. He's like, just go already. And he pushed me, and I wasn't ready. And I was like, fuck. And I with my hand, I grabbed the side rail of the sliding board so hard with a kung fu grip that I literally ripped my skin open.
Mm.
That's how much I was resisting, just surrendering to the process of just going down the fucking slide
Yeah.
into the pool.
Right.
No danger. I just didn't like the fact that somebody was pushing me or what I wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
I freaking ripped open my hand. It's crazy. So my journey's not over. I don't think any of ours is. And for me, it's just, and I think for all, Mike just told the same story, right? Or how are we going to surrender? Um, Lose ourself, right? Lose yourself in the medicine, lose yourself in the trust of source, of God, of Mama Ayahuasca. And so as the week went on, I was like, God, that one guy, Michael, he was next to me one time on the mattress next to me, and he's like, took him 5 minutes, and he's like in this, world where he's getting like surgeries from these, taking out his organs, and he's like sharing all this stuff at the end of the night. I'm like, God damn it. I just shit
Yeah.
my brains out for 3 hours and
Yeah.
you're doing all this cool stuff. I'm like, what do did I have to stay 2 weeks?
Yeah. You got to do another week of it. I was under the same impression as you as the first night, especially. I was like, all right, here we go. I throw on my eye mask and I'm thinking, all right, let's do this. And it was like,
Yeah.
nope, you don't get that. That's not what you need. That's not what you need. You got to deal with yourself before you, go on a little bit of a journey that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When's the movie start?
Yeah. When's the movie start? Not yet. Not yet. I got to go back again, I guess, because mine was purely consultations.
Yeah.
And that story about the slide relates perfectly to what was going on. And I think I don't want to speak for Michael, but for myself, that's totally it. I remember the first day, I think it was the first class, you had mentioned that you were scared because of your ego. And I never thought that deeply into it. And one thing that I can say that this whole process has done is has made me think a lot deeper about these kinds of things. And maybe that was a little bit of lack of life experience for myself, just not thinking, you know, what's an ego? I didn't even know an ego existed until that week. And that was a big thing for me personally because my ego died and I had a rebirth and I didn't even realize I had one. So that's the surrender was the key, and I'll let you finish that soon here of when you finally did surrender. Mike, night two.
Night two was, yeah, it's incredible. Night two was what I thought night one was going to be like. What all the cool stories about it are, the geodesic shapes, um, I mean, yeah, people probably thought, well, it was confirmed that I was absolutely nuts. I was really connected with nature. I went outside. They would put the mattresses on the grass. And, I didn't want to be on a mattress. I wanted to be on the grass. People said it looked like I was making out with the ground,
Your
which
head
I
was
probably
buried in the sand.
was.
Yeah.
I was tasting the grass, I'm sure, smelling. I was just really, I mean, yeah, you talk about source. I was so connected to the environment around me. And um I mean, they play that music, and the music is in the same hertz as, you know nature. And I mean, everywhere that I put my hand down, I would find like the basically like the stem of a leaf. And I was like a conductor listening to the music from inside the maloka, and then hearing the cicadas and the crickets, and I'm going like and I mean, I was literally moving celestial bodies across the sky, and everything was gridded out. It was everything that I expected DMT to do in your system when it floods. Um, and and it was this beautiful experience. Like, I've had conversations about this with people, and not to get into the minutia of my life, but I'm in a pretty crazy divorce right now, and they actually, um, my ex is trying to purport that I'm like a drug addict and an alcoholic, and they found out somehow that I went to Costa Rica, and they're like, oh, "Yep, Schedule One drug," and da da da, and she, filed to have me have supervised custody, which has since been removed. But in that, I got this crazy ability to kind of talk about ayahuasca in a judicial environment, where the stakes were on me. It wasn't like I was some expert witness, but I basically told them that you can't go do ayahuasca. It's not like a party drug. You know what I mean? It's not.
It's not.
You're not doing it like mushrooms where you can, go to the Grateful Dead show and whatever. And ayahuasca and having dimethyltryptamine flood your system is a visceral experience that if you're not prepared for, you can completely freak the fuck out. And Rythmia does such an amazing job of conscientiously preparing you for how to handle it, how to, because everyone has a different experience. But so back to night two, and night two, it was like, if you were going to consider that to be I'm going to just do drugs, which it's not a drug. They were calling it that in court, and that was triggering to me, because I was like, this is people just pontificating on things that they just have no understanding of, to push an issue that wasn't necessary. But I digress. That second night, what I realized is, at one point I thought, am I God? And I knew there was that ego check of like, no, you're not God. But how the fuck am I doing this? How is this happening? And you're not. That's the thing about you're not like, you're not fucked up like to the point where you're not lucid enough to be rational in a sense,
Hmm.
in moments where you're, like I said, where I was, um, you know, being a conductor and orchestrating the sounds, and I was just so present, and I was so tuned in to me, but yet lost in everything because of the interconnectedness. So what I realized in the am I God? Yeah, I am. So are you, Jesse. So are you, Steve. So, so are the howler monkeys. Like, we're all connected, and that's what I realized. And god damn, if that wasn't a beautiful night. I mean, it changed my life and my perspective. You know, it's it's funny because I have a lot of friends in recovery. I teach recovery yoga, but what I think about the second night, I think when in a fellowship situation is, if not by the grace of God, there go I. Like, and that's just everything. Friggin' leaf on a tree, that person that you walk by, that you don't make any connection with, but you kind of glance at one another walking down the street in New York City, whatever. And it gave me a new perspective to how I hold space for people and show up for the people that are in my life. um and yeah, so I went from this grandiose idea that, am I God, to we're all gods, and we're all stewards of, you know our each other, the environment, And it's, yeah. And, it's, to get my woo woo yoga, but Baba Ram Dass basically, says, we're all just walking each other home. And that's what it felt like that night.
Yeah, the whole calling each other brother thing is way more understandable after the
Mhm.
week because you said earlier we're all in this together, and that's a way of describing it, and it seems like it's the easiest way of describing it, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that, and I think what you're saying is explaining that. And I had never called anybody brother that wasn't my brother beforehand, but it's there's something special about it because again, as you said, God's inside all of us, and that's who we are. And I think that goes a little bit deeper too, where like myself included, where I didn't and before I had come to Rythmia, I didn't respect myself or love myself, and I had no faith in God. And after my faith had come full circle, I began loving myself, and I think there's a connection there for sure.
Yeah.
All right, night three, I had a nada. I slept most of it. Stephen,
Wow, that's interesting. You slept most of it.
I did. I To go a little bit deeper. I'm not trying to piss anybody off. I have had a resentment towards women, and I think I've mentioned this for quite a while. And part of it is going through a divorce. You have a certain opinion of
Yes.
the
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 process.
other sex, and that's part of the process is the grieving process, and that's why I had been single for 2 years after my divorce and not even a date because I can't even deal with it, right? And anyway, when I heard it was ladies' night, again, what you need, not what you want. I'm going into Wednesday night like, let's do Tuesday night again. And
Yeah.
ayahuasca's like, no, that's not what's going to happen. And the whole night was female artists, female dancing. Again, they kept the men and
Yes.
women separate. But for me, and this is something I did as a kid all the time, and my mother tells me this all the time, whenever I didn't want to deal with something, I just go to sleep.
Yeah.
If I got grounded, I'd just go to sleep. And I'm like, all right, I'll wake up when I'm done being grounded. And
Yeah.
when I was at the peak of turmoil with my ex-wife, I would just go to sleep instead of having to be around her during the day. So what did I do on ladies' night? I went to bed and I slept through most of it. And then I woke up with a terrible headache and I woke up angry. And
Mm,
I was thinking to myself, man, this was kind of a brutal night. I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I almost felt like I was disengaged at that point. But I think where the larger lesson in that for myself is I have disengaged with certain projects my whole entire life when something happens that I didn't care for, and then I
hmm.
walk away from it and I don't pick it back up. And for this, I disengaged, but I had to stick with it because I was going through a process. And some of these new projects that I'm working on right now, which we're going on roughly about 9 weeks, I have already encountered uncertainty and maybe some things that I didn't care for. However, I'm sticking with it and I'm powering through it because the reward on the other side is worth it. And we mentioned this before we hit record. You mentioned thousands of viewers, and I said to you, if this has 10 viewers in 6 months from now, I'm still going to be doing it because there's a reward on the other side of it. And every project that I do from here on out, I want to complete it. Not completing something feels like a waste of time to me at this point. No matter what the challenges are, I got to get through it and I got to complete it. Michael, on to you. You were saying that you got your real estate license. I tried to take my real estate in 2020, 2021. I got disengaged and I quit halfway through, even though I invested the money into it. So there's another example of myself disengaging from a project and not following through with it. So the message that I'm receiving, and right now on this podcast right now, I'm having that realization that I disengaged because of that resentment I felt, but I stuck through it, and that has been the difference since I've been back. And that's a huge call out for myself.
Yeah.
Night
Yeah, I
three.
can not
Interesting.
to yeah, I can relate to that a lot, Jesse. Just the um I find if I'm not doing something and getting this amazing result right away, um, after, post, Rythmia, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fucking see this through. So I see what you're saying, and I feel it as well.
Yeah.
So night three,
Yeah. Give me it.
right? Ladies' night. Um, God, I wish I had better stories. It was more of the same, man. I was like, I think night three was when my goddamn pelvic floor just freaking gave out from all the trips to the bathroom. I mean, good Lord. Um, Maybe I just have more stuff to get through before I can get to the good stuff. I don't know, obviously,
Yeah. We need to
because
go back.
everything just was coming out of me on the regular. And I think I drank at least 3 cups that night. One night I know I drank five. I forget which one. But so ladies' night, I mean, when I felt good enough, I got up and I danced, you know, and that was fun, you know. Um, a lot of outside, a lot of hammock, the hammocks outside.
Mhm.
But I think I had some conversations. What's the word they use for conversations?
Consultation.
Consultation.
Mhm.
And but mostly it was trying to feel good enough to sort of relax. And it takes a while. I mean, the first 2 hours each night was fine. And then once it hits, it's like, whoa, um, waves of trips to the bathroom. So, uh, but no, I had some good interactions. I had some good dancing. And was that the night that Mike got tied up, or was that the last night?
That was the last night,
Wow.
I think.
Yeah,
Spoiler alert.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know if we were going to
So,
mention that or not.
yeah,
I'll go into it.
yeah. And
Oh, you're
uh,
purging.
Yeah, he's
a
purging.
lot of
He.
purging.
Oh
Night
yeah, a lot of
three,
yawning. That's right.
I think I started to have some insights about, you know, um, that were, spiritual beings having a human experience. And I was definitely getting some signals from Mama Ayahuasca about that. And uh, feeling good about the direction of the experience. I just felt like I wasn't getting deep enough.
Yeah. And that's how I felt after night three too. Is I didn't feel like anything happened, and it took up until now for me to realize the result of that.
Hmm.
So you may have a moment here within the next few months that you think back on it and say, okay, you know what? Now I have that answer. Maybe, maybe not. I think what we're
Yeah.
getting from this is that we just need to go back again
Well,
and do
yeah,
it.
and I found it interesting that the folks who, with a lot of experience with this and the folks that live down there, work, you know, are at Rhythmia all the time. They're drinking medicine on the regular. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's not a one and done.
no,
It doesn't have to be like a happy hour every day. You're drinking cups, but at
yeah.
the same time, um, like I said, there's more deeper places to go.
Just because Wednesday is a little bit of a cliffhanger before we get to Mike, let's go into Thursday night four for you, and then Mike will have you do night three and then night four.
For me,
Yeah, for you. Tell us about night four,
um,
Viaje.
uh, again, I wish I had better stories.
Make one up.
Um,
I
I,
can I share with you what you and I kind of experienced together on night four?
yeah, please.
Because we had to get separated. Do you remember that?
You and I had to get separated?
Yeah, you don't
No, I
remember.
don't. Did we?
Okay. Yeah, we did. We did. I got separated from you at least. I so night four for me personally was the all-encompassing wrap on what I was taking away from everything that was happening. And I was walking around outside looking at the sky, consultations with myself, talking to myself, and you said to me, "There's a guy that's got it all under control." And then I had it in my mind, "Oh my God, for the first time in my life, I'm in control." And the first of all, the impact that you had on me that week during those ceremonies, again, there's no accident that you and I picked the same week. There just isn't. And I understand that
No.
you're not supposed to talk to other people while they're having their experience, and but you saying certain things to me triggered things that were positive in my opinion. And I'm not encouraging that we should talk to each other because that's just not the process. But you said to me, "That looks like a guy that has it all under control." And then I went over and I sat down next to you and we talked for a little bit and we had a conversation about the sky and because that was the night of the eclipse and
Yeah.
um, we were talking and I don't remember the exact context of the conversation, but we were talking for a good 5 or 10 minutes, and then somebody came up to us and said, "Okay, you guys have to, walk away from each other."
Yeah.
And again, you were a huge part of night four because later on in that night, I had a half cup on night four, and later on in that night, they come up to you, "Okay, last call. Do you want another?" And I said, "No, I don't. For the first time in my life, I don't need another. I don't need to chase that feeling that I had chased my whole life." And I said to the volunteer that had asked me, I said, "I'm in control. I, I'm in control. I'm finally in control." And then I was blind for about an hour and I learned the perspective of being blind. And then I was deaf for another hour and I learned perspective of being deaf. And I had all these different things happening, but I was in control of all of it the whole entire time. And you kind of put that in my mind, and it obviously meant something because then it stuck. So
Mm.
I don't know if you remember any of that conversation. I don't.
Vaguely.
Okay, I don't remember a whole lot of the context, but you and I we were sitting outside together in that dewy grass.
Yes.
That grass was tripping me out because I was like, "Why is it so wet?"
Yes.
I was getting soaked, but it was like a good dew. I
That's
said,
awesome.
"Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah." So if you have no stories for night four, just tell me how you felt after night four. What was something you learned?
I learned that kind of like what I said, this is an engagement in a process, but it's a process. And I guess I was a little disappointed that, I wasn't transformed by the week. I mean, I was, but there's more to be done. Um, and maybe it's just just refreshing on a continual basis. But I was in pain. I was physically in pain night four.
Your whole body
And
was sore,
I didn't make it I didn't make it till the morning. I went back to bed.
right?
I went
Yeah,
back. I went back to the room. And they walked after me and they found me and it must have been like 4 or 5 a.m. I don't know. And they came in the room and they were like, "You can't leave. You have to finish the." I said, "I can't even move." I literally was like, ugh, couldn't walk. I felt like so. I was trying to stay positive about the whole experience, but obviously that was disappointing for me.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Okay. Well, everyone's experience is different. I think every single night is different. You have a different experience every single night. No journey is the same, as they say.
Yeah,
And um, if you maybe came away from that week feeling like you felt incomplete, know that what you did helped me complete my week. So I'm
means a lot to me.
I'm very gracious to you for that. Thank you, um, Michael. Night three into night four, and I guess talk about getting tied up.
Since we know, right? Um, Night three, ladies' night. It was I felt the vibe. It sounds corny, but it's really it's called ladies' night, which is, not what you think, like going to the bar and ladies get half off drinks or anything. It's really holding um space and in recognition of the, feminine divinity, which, I'll admit, I have my moments with, it's funny that we started off with the misogynist. I kept calling Jesse a misogynist just because
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. But we have our moments, because I think, you know it, it's really it's just as ignorant as how racism is. You know what I mean? You have a bad interaction with somebody who's different from you, and now all of a sudden everybody that's like that is that. And I think, being that we're all three have gone through some difficult divorce processes, you maybe put that on a gender, or which is just, it's stupid. And it's but it's, again, we beat ourselves up. It's the human condition. And this is what this self-inquiry work is for, is to make you realize things like that. And I think, not to be that guy, but I don't care, I say it. I that one clip of the podcast, the Joe Rogan that Ron White was on, and he said something that just resonated with me, because I had to, you know, be, roasted in court about it. But we have to go to a different country. I think Joe Rogan said it. We have to go to a different country to be a better person. Um, and yeah, that is nuts. So that night, I I felt just absolute, just complete and total love for the women in my life, the women that I met there, the female shamans and shaman helpers. I mean, Raven was amazing. Um, she was like everywhere that night, helping everyone and just being so intricate in everybody's journey. And I found myself at one point sitting. So I went outside, again, it was the Pintas and I was very enamored at one point with the lines in the sidewalk, the line out by the fire pit, just just geometric shapes were just, I was just following where they went. Um, and then I see the I don't know what they would be called, but the like palm, like the fern type plants, like the palm type plants, and the way that the moonlight was coming
Mm.
through, because it was a full moon, obviously, because the next night was a blood moon, Mercury in retrograde. I mean, it was insanity. And the eclipse, like, Jesus Christ, like, wow. But anyway, so I saw the way the light was, and I loved sitting in the rocks, those little rocks, and I went under the plants and was sitting there, and the way the moonlight was coming through and it was just insane to me at that point. But in that, it wasn't just that happening. It was that experience all around you. So I'm hearing the women, the music, the dancing. I at some one point picked up stones in both hands and was shaking them to the same cadence of the music. And I realized at one point that I was sitting outside the open window of the Maloka, and I realized that I I felt like I was just holding space for the women to have their moment, to enjoy their night, their, celebration. And I felt this reverence for females. And I don't know, sorry, I get like emotional thinking about it because I have like really powerful women in my life. And Yeah, I wouldn't be the guy that I am if they weren't there. And so I thought too, that's what, attracted me to my wife. And um,
Yeah, I'll let you have a moment to gather yourself.
yeah,
That I,
Hmm.
again, that's allowing them to have that night
yeah,
is really cool because again, it's not all about us or myself or you or we said earlier we're all in this together, and it's the, the fact that we all got to experience, again, I'll say it, we all got to experience these different things and also deal with our emotions head on
hmm,
rather than shutting them out and numbing ourselves to them, which as a former addict I can say that because that's what I would do.
hmm,
Yeah,
um yeah, it's something that is incredibly powerful.
yeah,
Yeah, so
it is. It
yeah.
is.
A- Anything else you'd like to add about Ladies Night, or should we go into
yeah.
night
I
four?
mean, so yeah, just to, I get emotional when I think about it, but yeah, I was able to kind of forgive my wife. And I don't say that from a place of I own my partner.
Mhm.
But some of the things that have gone on throughout the litigation and whatnot, and it's still not over. It's helped me to deal with the situation from a more um, almost a third party perspective. You know,
Mm.
Yeah,
like not playing a victim, not being understanding that you know people be people, and you know and understanding the modality of her behavior. And so that was a powerful night for me. I also remember laying there waiting for the medicine to take hold, and was touching my abdomen and my belly button, and kind of realizing later why I was doing that was just really crazy. I mean, I think you can figure out why. I was kind of feeling that connection that I had for, you know, almost a year. We're in the womb, you know what I mean? And I thought about the birth of my kids, and that was, amazing. And I thought about, just, my grandmother who's passed, and my girlfriend now who is amazing, the strength that she has. And how I couldn't do this without the without that feminine energy, without that beautiful strength that women possess. So yeah, that was a powerful night for me. And then moving on to night four, the yahe was it was if you could imagine that ayahuasca, which yahe is ayahuasca, but just your Miller Lite ayahuasca or whatever, um, tastes horrible, less filling. Yahe was so much more bitter and just
yeah,
oh,
yeah. It
it
was like the
was
four lokos
and it was
of
like
ayahuasca.
thicker.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
but it was like I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it
But
either.
it was oof, man, you could tell it was different stuff.
Do you guys get like if you think about it, right, like now, like sometimes I'll think about it and I'll be like, ugh, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
almost
Well, when we're
experience the taste.
yeah, when we're talking about it,
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
phew. Um, but
myself, I
yeah,
never
so
really
the
have that
Yahe.
problem.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I myself, I didn't really mind the taste throughout the whole week. It
That's
never really
Well,
bothered
you
me.
told me that you just let it go down your throat, right?
Yeah, yeah. And somebody mentioned switching it around, and I'll
Ugh.
give that a shot next time around. Why not?
yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, yeah. Just torture yourself a little bit. It's fun. Yeah.
So
Go on.
yeah, so I drank you know, I don't even think they give you a full cup. I feel like it wasn't like a full cup, but and then they, shut it down for that 40 minutes or hour and a half or whatever it is. I don't know. I had no concept of time all 4 nights, like didn't care, didn't I hate time to this day. It's just
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of time, calendars, all that stuff. It's
Yeah.
just adds more stress in life, but I get that we need it. But anyway, so that night was pretty incredible. I again was outside a lot. They I was very early from what I didn't recall, but very early on in the night, from talking to some of the our group members, realized that I was tied up quite early in the process, and it was basically, not that I was going to hurt myself or anything like that. It was they wanted me to be able to stay and not, you know, and that's what like I mean, I wouldn't do this anywhere else, like Rythmia. They just have it done. They know what the fuck they're doing, man.
100%. Yeah.
They held space for me, because it wasn't like, the guy that goes out and gets drunk, your buddy, and then he gets in a fight, or but that comes from somewhere, right? So
Mhm.
the ayahuasca, it was doing something in me that was creating a great deal of energy and angst, and um, you know, also to help other people's, um, you know, journeys. I, was bound, and they, the shaman helpers were with me, doing all kinds of prayers and things. I did, you know, lose consciousness a couple times, so I did like kind of nod out. And but I kept having these really strong epiphanies of things, and I could get into all that, but it would just take so long. I at one point when I was getting tied up, I was like, "Oh, I'm having a sacred surgery," and then I kind of realized, no, they're tying me up. I'm like, just let it happen, and I'm like, "Oh no, it's just four shaman helpers tying me down."
Yeah.
But yeah, but I did actually, yeah, I experienced crazy shit that night. I did have sacred surgeries, which it was kind of crazy. Like my chest was opened up, and
Yeah.
I mean, you could get into it all, but it was heavy. That night was absolutely bananas. And they asked me at one point, "Who are you?" And I'm looking at this guy's face, and oddly, some of the shaman helpers were bald like me, and like looked like me at some points. Like I was looking. It was crazy. Those guys are absolutely amazing. And they just help. They guide me through um a lot of, I guess, just a lot of dealing with issues and things that I probably wasn't aware of. They say the issues are in your tissues, and that's certainly true. But that night was, I mean, I thought, after night two, I was like, well, I could go home now. And I mean, this is fucking amazing. But
Hmm.
night four wrapped it up for me in a way that I've yet to really be able to fully understand, but I get glimpses of it in my everyday life. shit comes out of me. Sometimes teaching yoga, I'm just present in in teaching yoga, and I don't think about what I'm gonna say. I don't, I take the temperature of the room and I walk in and I do the thing. And there's times where I'm like, oh, like where the fuck did that come from? Or like,
Yeah.
and so it's cool. It's like I get this, I get to like kind of learn or meet myself some days where I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? And it's like like that Pink Floyd album, "Wish You Were Here," where the guy's shaking hands with himself and they're on fire. That's how I feel some days. Like, who the fuck is this guy? And man, do I like that guy? Like, like I want more of that. Like
Yeah.
responding to things, stimulus, nice big pause, response. Just the ability to meet people where they are. Um, yeah, I mean, I woke up because I did knock out probably in the wee hours of the morning, and I came to in the Costa Rican sun. Like, I mean, I couldn't have, I'd go back there right now if I could.
Yeah.
I wanted to wake up like that every morning. And they said that they would, they're like, they apologized for, tying me up. And I said, no, I did that to myself. And, I believe that that was symbolic in a way, um, because that's the way I felt going there. I
Yeah.
was just so, I don't know, just so bound by my beliefs that were ingrained in me by, people doing their best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the resentments that come from that and the person that you become. And I forgave myself. Sorry, I get really emotional.
Yeah.
I forgave myself for a lot of what I've done to myself, like just
You, yeah.
yeah,
Doing your best. You're doing your best.
yeah. So yeah, that night was fucking incredible. And yeah, I just if everybody can have this experience, it takes courage, and I'm not saying I'm so brave, but it takes courage because we like the way we are and to our detriment. And yet
Mm.
I don't know. I look at things so differently. And like Jesse, being an addict, whatever, it's the human condition. But yet people look down their nose at people. The same people that'll stand by the refrigerator and eat and not understand why they're so overweight. But that's
Hmm.
okay. That's palatable,
Yeah.
pun intended. For somebody to eat but to do heroin, oh, you're a scumbag. You know what I mean? So I just learned so much. I kind of knew that, but like, I teach recovery yoga and I see the human condition. I was I was in law enforcement for 16 years and I see the human condition and we just need to fucking take it easy on each other.
Yeah.
Um Everybody's so quick to judge everybody else, but everybody's going through the same fucking thing, just a different way. And um, yeah, I mean that was night 4 for me, is just realizing that you know humanity needs to just chill the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like we need to just give each other the space to be who we are and not judge because we're all fucking bullshitting each other. You know what I mean? Most,
Hmm.
right? I mean, even me. Like I'm not, I'm not like, oh, because I did this. We're all bullshitting each other every fucking day. Hey, how you doing, Jesse? I'm good, man. I'm good. Are you though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you? Do you
I
have
have,
Yeah.
time? Do I have 2 hours to listen to
yeah,
what's going on with Steve? I do because we fucking do talk on the phone. If you
right.
get
Yeah.
a phone conversation with me, anybody who loves me, and they do love me because they listen to me just chew their fucking ear off. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's the shit that I'm talking about. And that's what
Mhm.
I'm so, I can't wait to go back. Um, I don't give a fuck what the court thinks or anything. It's not a schedule one drug. Uh, come on, dude. We created time. We created calendars. We created schedules of drugs. Now, cocaine, all right. But Sigmund Freud did a fucking bang up job on cocaine. So, you know what I mean? I think it's people need to know more about this, and I mean, for addiction, um, and it's crazy to me, you know, you can buy psychedelics, you can buy DMT and uh, psilocybin in Washington D.C. It's legal.
Yeah.
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 What the fuck are we? You know what I'm saying? So
Same.
why
Yeah. Same here in Minnesota.
it just makes no sense. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're so convoluted on everything because if there's money to be made, like
Yeah.
they found out with marijuana, then you know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
anyway, I get off my soapbox there. I don't want to get political, but to me, it's my point in saying it is we need to just meet people where they are. An addict is an addict for a reason. They're not an addict by choice. And
Yeah.
I made a choice to go do ayahuasca because I don't want to live with this shit that nobody's fault. Everybody did the best to make me the person I am, but I don't want my kids to be products of my dysfunction. And that's to me, being able to go to Rythmia was a fucking, I'd pay triple the fucking amount. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. That's
When
great.
when you say you see somebody that you haven't seen for a long time and they say, "How you been?" Good. I had this conversation actually in Costa Rica with somebody. It's it feels like such a like we're trained just to say, "Yeah, I've been great, man. How have you been?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of it is I don't want to unload my bullshit onto you because I don't want you to unload your bullshit onto me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, while it's a polite thing to say, "Hey, how you been?" Maybe it just should just be like, "Hey,
Hey.
what's going on today?"
Right.
Maybe that's the
Right.
way to change it.
Right.
Um, yeah, there's a lot there, and I think the next time that we're on here, I think we should go a little deeper into those epiphanies that you had, as well as talking a little bit more about the difference between a guided experience rather than
Mm-hmm.
something you can buy on the street.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Steven, do you have anything to add about integration after Costa Rica? What's life like been like for you?
Well, the insights continue. The experience on the whole was positive. I got a lot out of it for sure. I would totally do it again. My friend Matt, Mike, and Matt and I talked about that got me into it. He does continues to do plant medicine ceremonies here in the States. He's in Florida, so I'd like to do something else with him. He's doing something called Wachuma.
Okay.
Have you guys heard about Wachuma?
I haven't heard of Wachuma.
Well, Mike's heard it from Matt probably, but uh, I think I'm not sure how it relates to ayahuasca, but he's got a lot out of those experiences. So I would totally do it again. Um, anything that can help this process of peeling back more layers of the onion, because that's what this life is about. Yeah, we're doing our live human experience stuff, right? Working, eating, whatever, but we're here to get as close as we can to, in my opinion, the grace of God, Jesus Christ lived in it. There's an example of someone how to live a life. Um, you talk about acceptance. He knew he was going to be put on the cross, and he accepted it. He surrendered. That's the word, surrendered. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of things that we go through in life that we're resisting, and and so it is, right? And so it is.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing about Jesus' life, it's rumored or said because he disappeared for that time between what was it,
Yeah,
13 to 24, 25, as he went to different countries to study different religions. He went to work with the Freemasons to learn the Freemason technology. He, studied all these different things and then came back with the knowledge that he had gathered around the world. That's what's said. I don't know if that's true. I can credit,
yeah.
I think it's Billy Carson to that. I think that's his name, to that theory, because I have heard that said before. So he made the most out of life before surrendering, and I think we all end up surrendering in the end. And what are you gonna do in the meantime? Are you gonna
Yeah.
do drugs and lay in your bed all day, or are you gonna spend that time arguing with somebody and fighting with somebody, or are you gonna spend that time loving people and getting to know them? That's for sure.
Trying to make the world a better place, you know,
Yeah, yeah, right, right,
but eventually even that's going to surrender to the oneness of the universe.
correct.
And, arguably it's not even real. I mean,
Yeah,
the Elon Musk simulation, right?
yeah, yeah.
We're
There's
all
also
Neo.
yeah. Maybe we can get into it in another time, but I do have some interesting theories on that, so I'd love to discuss it at some
I
point.
bet you do.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
bet you do.
Well, yeah. So just to wrap it up, I think Chris Farley said it the best, but it was the Beatles. The love you take is equal to the love you make.
I
And
like that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and they were on some shit, man. And I think that, you can look at any iteration of self-inquiry or plant medicine or whatever gets you to go inward and to see, to really be in your frontal lobe. Um, but I think that there's been some amazing things that have happened in this world from people who have been exploring this, you know, this I don't know what, just journey this
Hmm.
and I know I'm not done, and I don't want to figure out what the purpose of life is, but I want to figure out how to just be able to meet things as they are, have no expectations, and I find that in my day to day now, when I surrender, the outcome is just the same as if I run around like the sky's falling. So
Yeah.
there's got to be something in that.
Yeah.
So, and I
Yeah.
and I want to just lastly say thank you to, all the people at Rythmia and all the people from our group, and you, Jesse. Like I've never been on a podcast, so thanks, man. This is really cool.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, this is great. I mean, all kudos to you for keeping the conversation going. This format is great. And, we're all in this inquiry. And when I come across people in life that are in the same conversation, it's such a refreshing, it's so refreshing to
Mm.
meet people like that. And obviously we were all there together at Rhythmia, but, yeah, it's just, living with love present in your everyday experience is so much better than fear. And as the Course of Miracles says, fear doesn't exist. There is only love. So
Hmm. That's right. That's right. And thank you to you guys. You've made a big impact on me and who I've become. And it's this is a journey that I'm glad to be on with you guys. You guys know
Yeah.
how to make me laugh and smile, and I love that. So anyone that's listening, please like, subscribe. You guys share the podcast, share it, and just continue growing this thing. I want to have you guys on again sometime, either the both of you at the same time, individually, however,
Sure.
whatever works.
Absolutely.
And now that we kind of got our backstories out of the way, we can continue on with more conversation about anything. So, thank you again.
Thanks.
Thanks.